haven't read a sci-fi book in like 1,000 years. I just realized I had this on the list. Rafi? I don't know what was in my brain. Hello, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to another bookmas video. And today's video, as you guys can tell from the title, I will be doing my 25 books in 2025. It's an annual thing I do at the end of the year. I will pick out 25 books that I want to be reading in 2025, and this video is quite exciting because I actually have a lot of books I picked out quite intentionally. I felt like last year I picked a lot of books I wanted to read. There were probably like anticipated reads and stuff, but for next year I wanted to pick out books that would really challenge me, that would push out of my comfort zone, or maybe just books that I've really put off for a very long time. I'm a little bit scared, but I'm really excited just because a lot of these books I think I wouldn't even pick up. Challenging myself in the next year, it's a great way to improve my reading experience, and I think sometimes fear gets in the way of my reading experience, so this is a great challenge to do, and I really intentionally picked out a lot of these books. I do own some of these in physical form, but a lot of these I have not owned the book yet, so I will be talking about the books I own first, and then we'll talk about the books I haven't owned yet but I really want to own and to read. Also, these books are not in any particular order, and also if the lighting changes or if you can hear any snoring, I have two dogs in my room and it's very gloomy today. Let's just get on with this video. A lot of the books that I do own are actually books I've owned for a very long time now. I haven't picked them up in a while, and they've been sitting in my TBR cart completely untouched, and I picked these out because I feel like a lot of people like them. However, I am scared of picking them up. They are intimidating and I just want to get them read. So the first one on top I have is The Lighthouse Witches by CJ Cook. This is a fantasy / mystery book. You're following two sisters, and one sister goes missing 20 years later. Her sister comes back completely alive but looking as she was 20 years ago. So there's that mystery aspect, but also I think witches play a role in this book, so I'm not really too sure once again if it's like fantasy or if it's like the Making June Pharaoh where there are sci-fi elements involved. And I got this in Amsterdam in the month of April, and I thought I was going to read this last month because witch season, which is October, but I didn't pick it up, and I feel like I've just been putting it off because I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this book, and this author CJ Cook is new to me, so again, putting it off. But I feel like I will enjoy the book. The premise is interesting. This says 3 daughters, a secluded island, and secrets unearthed, so I guess there's 3 sisters. Yeah, I would love to pick up a CJ Cook book. And then I have a nonfiction. Again, this is not in order. It's Dear Dolly by Dolly Alderton. I think I read everything I know about love in 2023. I would love to read a nonfiction next year. I haven't read any nonfiction this year, so I want to make it a thing to read at least 1 nonfiction a year. So I'm gonna put this as my nonfic pick for next year. I loved everything I know about love, so I think I'm gonna enjoy her writing. I just feel like it doesn't really read like a nonfiction. It reads kind of like a literary fiction book, so I want to pick this up. I don't actually know what this is about. Anyway, that is Dear Dolly by Dolly Alderton, and it's my second book. The third one is a trilogy that I have been putting off for a very long time, and I'm only putting the first book of this trilogy because I'm scared I won't pick up the other 2 books. But I've been putting this off, and I also bought this in Amsterdam in the month of April, and it's A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. I don't know why. I'm just scared of this, and I don't know why. Every single time I get intimidated by a book, I pick it up and I enjoy it. So I think the fear is getting to me sometimes. Maybe it's because I've heard a lot of people really like this book, and I'm scared I won't like the book, so I've been intimidated. But this one is about Kel, and he is one of those rare people who can go through parallel universes, and there are 4. There's red, black, gray, and white, and black is currently not available. It is closed off. It's broken. I don't know how to explain it, but you can't go to the black universe anymore. I don't know what else this plot entails, but that is that. I don't know if there's romance in this. I don't know if there is found family in this. I don't know anything about this book. I will pick it up next year, I promise. I feel like this is going to be a trilogy I'm gonna enjoy. So A Darker Shade of Magic by V. Schwab. The next book is not really a book I'm intimidated about, but I just feel like I need to put this in order to continue the series, and that's A Curse of Blood and Stone by K.A. Tucker. This is the second book in the Fate and Flame series. The first book is A Fate of Wrath and Flame, and I did like that book. It was 4.25 stars for me, and I've been pushing off reading the second book, and I don't know why. I think it's because I don't own the third and the fourth book because it's a quartet. So in this series, you're following Romeria, who is a gifted thief, but then she ends up getting caught by a mysterious woman. She captures her and brings her to another universe, and in there she is a treacherous princess who was about to throw a coup and was about to kill the prince she was supposed to get married to. I am excited to get into this one, so I will pick this up next year. Next is a genre I'm scared of, and I'm only including one book of this because I'm scared I won't pick up the others, and this one seems relatively like the easiest one just because it's more familiar, and it's The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Obviously, I've watched the movie, so I do know the plot and everything, but I am so scared of classics, and I don't know why. I did pick up 2 classics. I did a video on it, so I have read classics before, but after that, I've never picked up a classic, and I have like 6 on my TBR. I am gonna make it a goal to read more classics next year. I'm gonna choose the easiest one that I can pick up, and that's The Great Gatsby. It's super short, and I've heard that a lot of people read it in one sitting, so I'm gonna pick this as the classic that is in this list. Next is a genre that I usually don't pick up, but I've heard great things about, and it's Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. In this book, you're following Elizabeth Zott, who is a chemist that's working in this all-male lab, but she gets kicked out one day, and then she gets recruited to go on a cooking show that ends up going viral. And it is set in the 1960s, which is where the historical fiction part comes from. I've been putting it off, also don't really know why. I picked it up, and then I put it down again. I am at chapter 3, if you're wondering, but I just don't feel like reading this year, this month in particular, so I decided to put it in my 25 and 2025. I just have great expectations on this book just because a lot of people really liked it, and it was made to a TV series that a lot of people said was really good. I want to read Lessons in Chemistry. Cross my fingers, I'm going to read it next year. Also want to dip my toes into historical fiction a little bit. This book I'm a little bit scared of. It's All Roads Lead Here by Mariana Zapata. I have a love-hate relationship with this author, and she is the queen of slow burn, but I have liked one of her books and I have hated one of her books. I don't know what to feel about that. This is All Roads Lead Here. From what I can remember, the FMC runs away to the small town, meets a grumpy guy who is her neighbor, and then a relationship ensues. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there is a kid in this book. I'm not sure if it's the FMCs or the MMCs. But yeah, the FMC starts like a new life in the small town she just moved to, and that's the storyline. This is so thick for a slow burn. But the thing is, I know a lot of people who loved this book that I watch on BookTube, Heather McClary and Leah Crumpton. I feel like I will like it just because I love those 2 booktubers, and I always love the books they recommend. So hopefully I will read this next year. I'm just gonna cross my fingers I'm gonna read it. I've just been pushing this off. It's been on so many TBRs and I haven't picked it up, so yeah. The next book is not an intimidating book whatsoever. It's more of like a book I know I'm gonna pick up, so I'm gonna put it in this list. At least I will be able to complete one book, and that's The Lost Ticket by Freya Sampson. This is a romance slash general fiction book, and from what I can remember, the main character goes on this bus, meets an old man, and he tells the story of his long lost love that he met in a bus several years ago that he absolutely fell in love with, but then she went away, and so our main protagonist wants to go and find our old man's love. I don't know where the romance is going to entail in this book, which is why I say it's like romance slash general fiction, and it is published by Berkeley, so I know there is romance in this, but I haven't heard anyone talk about this book. I need to at least include an easy book for me to read, you know? So that's The Lost Ticket. Wow, this next book is going to be another out of my comfort zone book, and it's Andy Weir's Project Hail Mary. I haven't read a sci-fi book in like 1,000 years, but I've heard, again, great things about this book, which is why I got it, and I know a lot of people rated this really highly, and I've heard that it's not that hard to read this. I'm gonna trust those reviews, and basically this book, you're following a guy who wakes up in a spaceship, but he has no idea, no recollection of how he went there, of how he's there, and so he tries to figure out where his memory went to and why he's there to begin with. It is a sci-fi, and I haven't read a lot of sci-fi books. It's a genre that I don't pick up usually, so it's terrifying, but again, I want to push myself. This is another book I'm including because I know I'm gonna pick it up, and I am terrified that I won't pick up any of the other books, so I'm putting this in there because I know I'll pick it up, and it's Nora Goes Off Script by Annabelle Monaghan. Also, I just really want to read this. This is, I think, one of like her earlier works, and I've heard great things about this book. I also really like her recent release Summer Romance, so I want to get through her backlist. Also, it's a very short book. I think it's gonna be easy to get through. Oh, I don't know what this is about. I think like she is a screenwriter or something. Oh yeah, she's a screenwriter, and she works on this project, and the actor of the project wants to live in her home. After shooting wraps, Nora finds Leo on her porch with a half-empty bottle of tequila and a proposition. He'll pay $1,000 a day to stay for a week. I love her writing, so I am excited for this book. Next, I have The Ever King by L.J. Andrews. I am including a duology that I bought and never picked up. It's a pirate-esque book, and this is enemies to lovers. The male protagonist is Eric, the scarred king of the Ever Kingdom, and he ends up stealing his enemy's daughter and locking her in the Ever where he lives as revenge. I don't know what else is going to happen with that, but that's The Ever King. I bought this because I think of TikTok, but then I don't know anyone who talked about it ever again after that TikTok. That's The Ever King by L.J. Andrews. And then I have The Lost Story by Meg Schaffer or Schaefer. I haven't checked the pronunciation, I'm so sorry. But she wrote The Wishing Game, which I really enjoyed, and so I bought this and I haven't picked it up ever since. But this is a recent purchase and I just want to pick it up next year. I want to read a lit fic next year, so I'm including this as my lit fic pick. And in this book, you're following Jeremy and Raphael? Rafi? Rafi? I'm so bad at character names. There are two guys, they're best friends. They went missing one day and they reappeared 6 months later. One of them has no recollection of what happened and the other one has all the memories. And then they end up working together to figure out another case of disappearance because Emily, their friend's little sister, also disappeared. I just want to pick a lit fic book for this whole list. I figured that The Lost Story would be great because it has a little bit of magical realism involved. I also have another lit fic book, I just realized, but this one is a new release. I'm a little bit scared of picking this up this year. So it's Sally Rooney's Intermezzo. This is also my first Sally Rooney book and I've heard great things about this. This is about Peter and Ivan. Their dad recently passed away and they have to go through this grief of losing their dad. One of them is a chess player. Is it Peter or is it Ivan? Ivan is a chess player and Peter is a lawyer, and they both have a very big age gap of like 10 plus years, I think. And also you go through a few other characters in their lives as they go through this bout of their life. And I've heard that it's like slow in the first part and then it gets really, really good in the second and third part. I am determined to not let this rot in my TBR cart, so we're putting it in this list. The last physical book I have and own is The Lovely War by Julie Berry, another book I bought and never picked up. Have been putting it off ever since and I don't know why. I think I bought this in March. Picking this up is a little bit terrifying. I mean, obviously it's really thick, but also this is historical fiction mixed with like Greek mythology. The back of the book explains the book the best. There are 4 characters: Hazel, James, Aubrey, and Colette. Hazel is a classical pianist from London. James is a British would-be architect turned soldier. Aubrey is a Harlem-born ragtime genius in the US Army, and Colette is a Belgian orphan with a gorgeous voice and a devastating past. And this is set in World Wars I and II, and the whole Greek mythology that's involved in this book is that Aphrodite, the goddess, has to spin the tale or face judgment on Mount Olympus. I don't know how it plays a role, but that's kind of interesting. I mean, the writing is big. It's not like that scary of a book. In order to pick this up next year, I'm putting it in this list. I'm determined to read this. But I'm gonna take a quick break and also change my batteries because apparently I'm running out of batteries again. Give me a sec, I'll be right back. Also, I don't know if it's obvious, but I'm still a little bit sick, so hopefully you guys can ignore like the nasally voice. I don't know why, but every single time I have the flu or the cough, I always have it for like a month. I will be talking about the books that I don't own physically that I'll be buying like throughout the year next year. So the first one I have is The Queen of the Dawn. This is by S.M. Geiler. This is the last book and the Shadows and Crowns series, if I'm not mistaken. I have it like all here, I think, piled up here. It's a new adult series that I have been pushing off reading the last book because as the series went on, it started to get a little bit boring, but I want to know what the finale is, so I really need to read this book. The first book, The Song of the Marked, you're following, if I'm not mistaken, this has been a long time since I've read this book, by the way. You're following Cassia Graythorne. She is a mercenary. She works in order to earn money to buy medicine for her mentor. She works with a gang of mercenaries, I guess you would say. And one day she was doing a job, but she ends up getting caught by the commander of the King's Guard or something like that, called Elander. She's brought to the castle, to the king. She is a special case because her hair is completely platinum blonde because of the plague. There's a plague that hits this kingdom and she's one of the survivors. You don't survive survive the plague ever. So she's a very rare case and they usually get killed. But Cassia ends up getting saved because the king wants to find a cure for the plague, and he figures that Cassia is the best way to figure out how to cure it because she also survived the plague, and you just follow that whole storyline. And as the series went on, I just gotta be honest, things started to get really boring. I think because the third and the fourth book is very politics based. The main characters are like together by that point, so the romance is a little bit boring. Hopefully I'll pick up the last book next year. I just want to get the series done. Like I really want to finish it. The next one I don't have is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna, another historical fiction book. The Nightingale is one of the most popular Kristen Hanna books, and I have read one of her books. I think it's Firefly Lane, but I read it like a really long time ago when I was young, so it's been 10+ years since I've read that book. Honestly, plot wise I don't remember much about it, but I think it's set in World War II. I don't know what the characters are doing and I don't know what parts they're playing in this whole storyline, but it is a very sad book and a very emotional book. I've watched a lot of people read it and cry, so I really want to read this. I just feel like I'm late into the Kristen Hanna ride and I want to be in that bandwagon, so The Nightingale is in this list. The next book I don't own is also a fantasy book. It's the last book of a series, Tale of the Heart Queen by Nisha J. Tooley. It is the last book in the Artifacts of Arano series. I have the first 3 books right here. The first book is Trial of the Sun Queen, so if you guys have heard that before, I'm reading the last book of the series. I think it's out. The whole series has been great. It's getting better and better. The first book I didn't really like, and then the characters start to improve in the whole series, so I'm excited for the last book. I haven't had the chance to get it physically, so I don't have it right now with me. I have it in here. Hopefully I will get the series done next year. Another book I want to read is the start of a new fantasy series that I don't own the physical copy because I can't find it in my country, but it's Spark of the Everflame by Penn Cole. I really want to read this series. I've heard great things about this series and I know a lot of people love it by the end of it, and I just really want to read it because of the slow burn aspect. I really want to read a good, lovely, amazing fantasy book, fantasy series, and I just feel like this book's going to be it. I don't know what this book is about. I really don't know the plot. I would tell you guys like something about it, but I don't know anything. I literally don't know anything. I love going into fantasy worlds completely blind, so I'm not gonna try and do more research on that book. It was indie published and then it got picked up by a publisher, so just really excited to see this book in bookstores. Hopefully I will have it in my bookstores. I don't think it will happen. I have another sci-fi book apparently. I just realized I had this on the list, but This Is How You Lose the Time War. Who is this by? Max Gladstone. Okay, I've never read this author before. This book has been highly rated, highly talked about, has been loved by so many people. I did some research on this book and apparently it's also written by Amal El Motar, so there are 2 authors for this book. From what I know, it's set in like 2 worlds. I don't know if it's 2 worlds or 2 parallel universes, but there are letters exchanged by these 2 people living in like rivaling areas. I've heard great things about this book. I just want to read it, so I have it on my list. This book is a next book of a series, and that is Somewhere Beyond the Deep Sea. This is by TJ Klune. This is technically like a spin-off novel in the House in the Cerulean Sea world. I loved House in the Cerulean Sea, so I really want to pick this book up. This is about Arthur, I think. Arthur is the love interest in House in the Cerulean Sea, and I think it's like the follow-up of that book, but you get it in Arthur's POV, which is great. Is his name Arthur or is his name Albert? It's Somewhere Beyond the Sea. There's no deep sea involved. The Cerulean Chronicles. Oh, this is a Goodreads Choice 2024 winner. It's about Arthur Parnassus. I love that. I am going to read this 100%. I am determined to read this next year. One book I have, it's a romance book. I think this is the second romance book on this list, but this romance book is Done and Dusted by Lila Sage. I picked this book up before and it was a 2-star read for me, but a lot of people really like this whole series called The Rebel Blue Ranch, and I want to read it. And I know lots of people love the current release, which is Lost and Lassoed, so I really want to read this series, which is why I'm including it here. I just figured that a romance book can be a little palate cleanser in this list. Seems like a very easy book to read, and I want to reread it just so I would know if I really didn't like it as much or not, because I've heard so many people love it. The next book is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I don't know what was in my brain when I wrote this down. I don't know what I was thinking. I think people would say this is like a modern classic. You know what? I don't want to like say the wrong things. I'm gonna do some research on this one. This one is very beloved by a lot of people. I don't want to mess everything up by saying the wrong thing. Under the influence of their charismatic classics professor, a group of clever, eccentric misfits at an elite New England college discover a way of thinking and living that is a world away from the humdrum existence of their contemporaries. But when they go beyond the boundaries of normal morality, they slip gradually from obsession to corruption and betrayal, and at last inexorably into evil. I don't know if you guys can see, but the sky is getting really, really gloomy and dark, so I'm gonna try and make this quick. If I don't put it in this list, I'm not gonna read it, so I have it in this list. Hopefully, I'll pick it up next year. My last 3 books, let's go. Guild by Raven Kennedy. I do own a physical copy. It is gonna be a reread. I don't have it, I think, on Goodreads because I read it a very long time ago, I think in like 2020. So I want to reread it. I forgot what the story is about. I know the last book is out. So yeah, I want to pick up Guild. I want to read that fantasy series, and I know I enjoyed it the last time I read it, so Guild is in this list. 2 more books. I have Light Lark by Alex Astor. I wanted to pick this up when it was released, but there was a lot of backlash slash rumors about that release, also very bad reviews, and I didn't pick it up. But I realized that I will never know what a book really means to me until I pick it up and read it. And I know the premise is really interesting for this book. You're following this like game that exists every so often that is played by the rulers of each kingdom in this universe. If they win, they get to like get the curse off their kingdom, because there's like a little curse in this whole situation that they're in. I don't know what the exact curse is, but yeah, that is Light Lark, and I just feel like it's going to be a very good romantasy book. The last book, The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson, second book to the Mistborn trilogy. I did read The Final Empire this year, and I am so happy I read it. I really liked it, so I want to pick up the second book next year. I did end up picking up The Final Empire because it was in my 2024, so I put the second book in this list so that I will pick it up. And in the whole Mistborn series, you are following, I forgot the main character's name, Vin, I think is her name. I think Vin is her name. Vin is a ska. Vin is a slave in this world, and she works as a thief, and then she ends up getting recruited by a Mistborn in this world who is called Kelsier, I think is his name, and turns out she's actually also a Mistborn, and Mistborns in this world are able to wield all metals. The whole magic system is very confusing to explain, but it's easier to actually read about it, so I do highly recommend reading the whole series. That is the Mistborn trilogy, and that's the second book. I will not include a third one. I'm not too crazy, so that's the second book, and that is the last book of this 25 in 1025. Sorry that there's like a little bit of a rush by the end of this video because I'm literally losing sunlight, and I think it's about to rain very, very soon. We're in the start of the rainy season right now, at least where I live, so that's why it's getting a little bit ham with the lighting. If you guys want me to read any of these books very, very soon, let me know in the comments down below. I will pick them up, I promise. But if you guys have read these books and you want to talk about them with me, let me know in the comments down below as well. I would love to hear them. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel if you guys enjoyed this, and I will be posting a lot more bookmas content. Look out for that. But that is it for this video. Again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!